I wonder if it's like a correlation versus causation thing. I wonder that too about like people on YouTube say that saying like, oh, please like comment and subscribe. The reason that became popular is because like somebody did some research and it said that gives you more likelihood to get like subscriptions, comments, and likes. And I was like, I mean, that makes sense, but like, is that like reverse engineer? Like, what's their data set? Do they look at like really big YouTubers who said that anyway? And like, were people just like commenting and subscribing for their stuff because they were like big YouTubers anyway? They like their content. Like, if some schmo said that, does that actually help them, or is it just some other thing that they think is helping them, but it's really not?
I think it's people observing what they think is how the algorithm works. And
Yeah.
so they were like, hey guys, we're running an experiment this week. Like as much as you can, which obviously is bullshit. Like they're just trying to get more likes or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're always like, oh, if you give us ratings or likes, we'll get more visibility and get more more recommendations. We'll have us in them, so then we'll get more. And I think that's true because I think for iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever, reviews on podcasts, if you give a 5-star, it's immediately more likely to like be shown to people who are looking for new podcasts. But if you have no reviews, no one's looking at your shit.
Oh, really?
So we could do that. We could be like, hey guys, give us a 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. We'd really appreciate it. But it's like,
well, I guess my thing is, are people more likely to give it a 5-star because the content creator asked them to? I feel like the answer is no. I definitely don't like, comment, and subscribe. One, I hide all the YouTube comments, so I can't comment anyway, but I don't like or subscribe unless I actually like or subscribe. Actually, I almost like never like. I mostly don't subscribe unless I'm actually interested in seeing more of their stuff.
yeah, I don't just like do that by default. It's kind of like when you tell your people, you remind them, hey, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And it sounds shitty. It's like, sounds shitty. But it's kind of necessary because people do forget. It's like a thing people need to be reminded of. If they actually do like it, they'll probably click away after.
That's true. I don't know. I don't know. I want. I'm curious to see where they get that information from. Like, I wonder if YouTube tells them that, or if it's like some dude who's just sat down and watched 700 hours of YouTube and was like, yeah.
Because YouTube doesn't expose how the rules work or whatever, but they do change how this stuff works and then tell people that it changed. Mm-hmm. They're not going to like show you their proof of their crazy thing, because I'm sure a lot of it is like a learning model and they have no fucking idea how it works.
Yeah, probably. That'd be pretty funny if like even YouTube doesn't know how their recommendations work.
If you have a neural network at a certain point, isn't that always going to be the case? You can't really know how.
Is it a neural network?
They must have a machine learning model to recommend me katana videos.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because I mean, YouTube has been recommending stuff since before that was really like, before people had really like figured that part out.
Well, yeah, you can recommend it, but I'm sure the algorithm has changed over the past 15 years.
Oh yeah, that's for
sure. They're not recommending stuff based off of like what's being viewed, because the shit that you recommend is like I started watching a lawyer who does analysis of rap lyrics. And it's like he recommended it to me, but his channel is new. It recommended it to me shortly after his channel was created. He's already at 250,000 subscribers because people in the comments are like, does anybody know why it's recommended? This is so good. You know, but like it's the same kind of thing. It's just an algorithm and it's finding this. I'm sure there's no one plucking criminal lawyer reviews and giving it to me.
Maybe, I don't know. I wonder, I mean, if it is a neural network, then it really just is like people like this and like that, therefore I'm going to recommend it to more people and see if that actually works out or not.
Yeah, and then it knows the words that you're saying in the video because it automatically captions it. You get the text, you get the speech to text. It knows the content. It knows how often you're swearing. It knows your attitude on what you're talking about. That's how they do stuff. Like if you say certain words, they'll put information notices about like, get the facts on COVID-19, shit like that.
No, really? I did not know that.
Parse the content as much as they possibly can. There's even this new thing when I upload the videos, it's like, hey, there's a whole processing step now where before it could even be uploaded, we have to check it for copyrighted material. Like that's how it knows that we played that song instantly. 5 seconds of the song.
I see.
Content ID or whatever. Like there's crazy shit behind it because their whole business operates on it.
Google's insane.
Yeah.
They're so smart.
Well, when I was signing into my Gmail right now, it was like, hey, give us your home address so we can validate your identity. She's like, nope, I use you for email.
Yeah.
And YouTube me.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to. But I mean, they know where I live anyway. I'll be real. They definitely know where I live, where I go. I mean, like my credit cards will be like, you tipped slightly less on Postmates. Was that you? And I'll be like, yeah. Yeah, bro. There just wasn't as good service when you went for me.
It's nuts. I've had the realization recently, but Google being able to read your email is more valuable than basically anything I can tell you about myself. You can learn more about me through parsing my emails because you'll know what I subscribe to, what I buy, how often I buy it, the total that it costs me, all my recurring bills, my credit card statements, how much is due, my total balance. All that is text in an email.
Your bank account number?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. It's like blurred or whatever, but every transaction I make online is confirmed in my Gmail. Mm-hmm. They parse the text to understand and categorize what it is, if it's marketing, if it's not. They're parsing that shit. They know how much credit card interest I'm paying and whatever. Like, they know it. On YouTube, they give me a thing to market to people in specific income brackets.
Oh, really?
When did you ever tell Google how much money you make? They know it, though. Because if you buy an Android phone every year and you live in a certain zip code and all of your purchases is coming through your email, we know how much money you're making and spending and what you're doing from your email.
Damn, that's pretty smart.
It is, but it's fun.
I mean, yeah, no, listen, I'm not denying it, but damn, that is kind of nuts. I mean, are they using it for good or for evil? I mean, if it's just, they're just marketing garbage to you, you don't have to look at it, I guess, but as long as they're not like selling it to other companies who are like, oh, this idiot makes X amount of dollars and spends Y amount of money on his dog, therefore.
I just think the problem is that it exists. If you have all this power and you say today that you're only using it for profits, guys, it's just so I can make money, no problem.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it could be used for something bad. The problem is that it exists. Like in Silicon Valley, there's an episode where Richard's whole thing, he's building this platform, right? And it's a decentralized internet platform. And he's trying to get people to kind of build their apps to use this new platform. Mm-hmm. And he gets a dude on whatever, he makes a game. And then Richard is out kind of giving his PR stuff about how we don't sell user data, we don't collect user data, we don't do any of this stuff. And then the guy afterwards is like, hey, that was a great speech. You know why I do that shit though, right? And Richard's like, no, what the fuck or whatever. And so as a way to prove that this is a problem, Richard goes and builds a system where he takes all the data that this guy has collected and uses it against him. So he records all of his phone calls and he categorizes and location tags it. And he's like, here's where he fucked this guy's wife. Here is where he told this person this lie. And he has a map of every bad thing this guy's ever done, right? He builds this software to show this guy why collecting this data is bad. Mm-hmm. And the guy is like, fuck, this is awesome. And he takes the app and he goes and sells it to a VC because he's like, this is amazing technology. The problem isn't that it's used a certain way, it's that it exists, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
And like, the end of that show is so cool because they essentially like saved the world because they accidentally broke encryption. Their AI got so good at compressing data, it found out how to compress encrypted data, meaning it was able to break the encryption through the model.
Yeah.
And when they broke encryption, they realized that everything that we have today is built on encryption, like all security, whatever. So they end up bringing down their own shit to like save the world. Because the problem isn't how you use it, it's that it exists. You know?
That's kind of cool. I gotta watch that show.
Yeah, it's such a disappointing thing. I talked about it a couple weeks ago, but it's like, it's such a good show that sucks. You know, because the character is annoying. Some of the jokes are kind of hit or miss, whatever. And a lot of it is frustrating. But the show is very good. It's hard to have those things at once. But anyway, yeah.
I can't imagine. I actually don't know of a show that I feel that way, because most of the shows that I like it for the characters more than anything else.
Well, the characters in Silicon Valley are great and super memorable. The one guy, TJ Miller, is kind of like the funny guy of the whole show, and he left a couple seasons before it ended, so it got kind of different at the end. It was still good, you know. I just like that they did it. And
Is TJ Miller not the main dude from Recess?
That guy's name is TJ, right?
Yeah.
It might be Miller.
He just named a character after the main dude from Recess. Okay.
Also, we still have to listen to songs, but after we do that, you wanted to just like start recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god. All right, you ready to start this thing?
Yeah. It's super hard not to talk about those like right after.
I know.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the not live but in studio episode 75 of the Homegames podcast. I'm Yazeed, and this is Joseph.
Hello, my name is Joseph, and today is March 28th, 2021.
That's right.
Today for Homegames stuff, we're talking about, I didn't read this before, so let me freestyle it. We're talking about some asset and game service metadata stuff and some vision/game updates from Yazeed.
That's right. But before that, man, how's it going? What's new?
Pretty good. I love that we're in person again. We just listened to our Songs of the Week in person for the first time in like 4 months. There's a feeling, there's an energy when that happens, and we'll talk about that more for Song of the Week because the impact was strong this time. Then I don't know. It's good to just be back in person, kind of like feels normal-ish, kind of like what we always wanted this thing to be from the start, but on episode 75. So.
Yeah. Definitely. I like the energy of being in person is better, and also, like you said on the last podcast, like it's hard to notice when you're like doing it, but there's definitely like lag in between. Like sometimes it's hard to know, like, oh, Joseph's actually stopped talking, and there's like half a second of downtime, and it's like, oh, oops, I'm supposed to like pick up the ball now.
Yeah, and I think it comes off weird too in the recording because what I need to do is sync up audio from me and you, so those little gaps that actually exist in the audio because of the latency of the network. But then there's also me trying to think when I'm hearing the two separate audio clips, where exactly they merge together. Okay, if I fit this here, I said this when Yazeed said this, and it sounded like a natural response. But over here, 30 minutes later, before Yazeed finished saying this thing, I was like, oh, fuck that. And I sound like an asshole because I cut him off basically on the audio, but not on real speech. So it's like those timing things are weird. Anyway, I'm just happy.
Well, I think part of that, I am too. I was going to say, like, one of the things that I noticed like back when I was editing or trying to edit these was like the latency isn't standard, right? Like sometimes it's like really close and sometimes it's like very far, and so like it almost feels like you need to go through and like cut it up and then like merge them together, that's not gonna work because that's like hours of work to try to do.
Yeah, you can easily fuck yourself when you try to edit something out to improve it, and then you go down this rabbit hole because you keep making everything worse because you're cutting up pieces and like all that shit. It's really hard.
Yeah. Agreed. I don't know if you know this, but like I guess in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, that they did that a lot with the like video. So there's like a pretty famous scene where Chancellor Palpatine is talking to Anakin, and while he's talking, their faces are like totally like just like in an instant changing from like smile to like upset. And like they're not purposefully doing it. They took a bunch of takes of that scene and then they merged together what they thought like sounded the best. But like when you actually watch it, you're like, why are their faces so weird?
That actually happens a lot in The Sopranos too. It's interesting. You'll watch like a tense scene where this person's yelling at this person, but if you look at what that person's saying, like their mouth might not even be moving when some of the words are coming out, and it's because the vocal thing, like maybe they liked the physical energy from this take, but they liked the way that you delivered the line on this take, so they put that line on here and hope that you don't notice because SDTV was normal, so it's like maybe they won't even see the pixels where his mouth aren't moving or what mouth isn't moving. But yeah, little stuff like that where it really takes you out of it. But
I mean, I never noticed stuff like that. But also, like, I don't generally watch with my anything. I don't do anything with my glasses on. So I basically my whole world is like slightly blurred.
Yeah, I think The Sopranos. I think I've mentioned this before when they did that weird CG thing with the mom. But it feels too good to have any mistakes, and that's like the show's own fault for being that good, for striving to be here. So anytime I notice even anything weird, or it's like the continuity stuff, kind of like what you're talking about, where. You know, one scene they'll be here with a cup in their hand and it'll be half full and they'll be talking. It'll cut to your perspective and show me and the glass is full, or it's empty, or it's not in my hand. There's one, it's like stuff like that.
It's empty and they're going to take a sip.
Yeah, yeah. That stuff I just didn't notice. But in Sopranos I do, because again, it just feels good. And it's also pretty easy to see what they want you to see in The Sopranos. There's not a lot going on visually. It's like that guy's talking to that guy and they're in front of a house. That's
Okay.
the thing, you know?
Yeah. I think there's something like nice about like a visually minimalistic style like that then.
It makes its point, but it makes it easier to fuck it up, you know? If you have too much going on, it's like, Avatar was great.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell happened in that whole movie.
Well, like I want to say it's like not Iron Chef, maybe like Hell's Kitchen or something like that. One of the like cooking shows. One of the chefs was like gave them a dish and it was very simple. And the judge was like, listen, you gave us a very simple dish. So like if anything is wrong with this, it's going to be like very obvious because of how like simple like everything was for it. And I kind of like that, but also at the same time, like there's something about having like complexity in things that I also appreciate. So I wonder if maybe it's like, I don't know, but I've never watched Sopranos, so I don't know if I would like it or not.
Yeah. About like complexity and stuff. It's a good question, I guess. Cause like would you call Breaking Bad a complex show visually? Like, is there a lot going on in the frame?
I'm sure that there is. It's just not very obvious on maybe on your first viewing. Like now that I'm trying to remember like some of the scenes that I saw, but like I'm sure that there is like some real deep complex stuff. But the scene that always sticks out to me is the one. This is spoilers, and also I don't really know where this fits into like the main story. But there's a scene where Breaking Bad himself, something White, Paul White, Walter White.
Yeah.
He shoots Michael.
That's like season 4.
Yeah. This is pretty deep in.
He shoots Mike at the.
Yeah. When he's in the car, and then they sit down, and Walter starts talking, and Mike's like, "Shut up."
Shut the fuck up. Let me die in peace.
Yeah. That scene, I think on the outside is very simple, right? Like it's just the two of them like looking out on like some running water.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's a lot of complexity in that to like get that shot to look and feel the right way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think editing the podcast and even just this video thing that we do for the podcast has taught me that stuff even exists. I think yesterday we were watching The Sopranos and there was a scene where it was music playing as someone was driving in a car, and then they were pulling up to a driveway and they were about to interact with someone. This is all one shot, right? Like they're driving and then they're getting out of the thing and they're coming up to talk. And the audio like adjusts so the it's like a crossfade or whatever, where the mic or the music goes down, and then the environmental audio creeps back in, and then they start walking up the stairs and you can hear the footsteps, and I was just like, holy shit, people really work hard on that, and I didn't even know that was a thing. You know?
Yeah,
it's cool to appreciate it, I guess, even though I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, just I know you haven't watched the show, but like Adventure Time, like even the opening, it seems like very simple because like it's just like a cartoon or whatever. But when you watch, there's a lot of depth and complexity in the show. Like there's a scene in, I don't know, either one of the episodes or in one of the miniseries. But there's a scene where a young Princess Bubblegum gets into like this rundown, super dilapidated, like post-apocalyptic like store, and like on the outside it seems like really simple, like, oh, she's just like in here, but when you like break it down like scene by scene, frame by frame, there's like they basically told you what happened to the people who were in that, like as the apocalypse like happened around them. You just have to like actually like pay attention to it. So I guess that's an example of something that seems simple again, but like has a lot of complexity like baked into it.
I guess without like, this sounds like something that you would hear someone saying like a first year art school, but it's like the complexity is making it look simple, which sounds like an asshole thing to say, but I think it's real, you know?
Yeah I mean, knowing like what your color palette should be and stuff like that probably plays into it, like because Princess Bubblegum is like, she's pink, she's like bubblegum pink, and like everything around her is like dusty, it's like grim, it's dark, it's like it's faded, so she really pops in that scene, and so it's like really easy to be like only track her. And actually, like when I watched the actual scene, that's all I did. And then we were talking about this like before, but YouTube recommended something because I like Adventure Time so much that they were like, "Oh, check this out." And they broke down this like scene, and that's when I realized like, oh wow, there's a lot of stuff in there that I never noticed. Like, just a lot of stuff going on in there.
Yeah, I watched one like that when The Sopranos ended in 2008 or 2007. I watched the ending on YouTube, and it was an analysis of the ending, and it might have been like a bullshit, whatever. He looked twice, and it's because there are 2,000 years into the millennium, or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. But there are things for people to pick up on, and things like the angle shifting from here to here for these 2 seconds. Why? They didn't do that for nothing, and that stuff is like the whole complexity of it. For whatever reason, I was thinking of How I Met Your Mother. There's an episode where it's called Bad News. It's probably my least favorite, also favorite episode of How I Met Your Mother, because it's like heartbreaking, but it's really good. Basically, the episode is Marshall's dad dies in the episode. You've seen it, right?
No, I never watched How You Met Your Mother.
Okay. Because the way you nodded, I was like, oh shit.
No, I'm just following along.
Okay. One of the main dudes, his dad dies at the end of the episode, but the way that they do it is, the whole setting of the show is basically just this bar, someone's apartment, and then maybe one other area sometimes, but it's never really new. It's the same few places. Oh, and a doctor's office in this one. But if you watch the episode from the beginning, there's a countdown from like 100 to 99 to 98, and it happens in the world. It'll be like, oh, they're in the bar, and on the background over here, there's the number 100 on the jersey on the wall, and then in the next frame, there's the number 99 on someone's phone, or you know what I mean, like little things, whatever. And it keeps happening, and you don't notice it. You don't pick up on it unless you pick up on it. When you pick up on it, and you start to notice, why is that number there? Why are they sequentially like going down? And then the last like 30 seconds of the episode, there's a taxi, and it's the taxi number 1, right? And it pulls up, and Lily, Marshall's wife, is in the taxi in the back of the car. She gets out, and the light goes off, right? 1 to whatever. And then Lily is here, and she tells Marshall that his dad died. That's the bad news. It's a countdown to the bad news. Wow. But the whole show is just the show, and you don't notice it, but they're actually putting these numbers in these really weird ways throughout the entire episode that you don't even notice.
Holy moly.
It's super fucking cool. Like, I don't know. I gain an appreciation for that stuff when you start to work on things like that, I guess.
Yeah. That's really like one of those things that you have to notice to like appreciate. Yeah. That's pretty sick. I like that.
It's a great I don't even think you have to know the show. I think you could just watch that episode and kind of appreciate it. But if you know the show, like, fuck, man, when his dad dies, it's like the worst part of the whole thing. It's so sad. But yeah, speaking of sad things and happening, I just wanted to quickly mention we finished season 5 of The Sopranos, and that's not sad in itself. The show is very sad, and it's very dark, and show is 15, 16 years old, and I don't think I've seen some things that make me as uncomfortable as this show still does. Like,
oh really? The
most violent video games, the most whatever stuff. There's just stuff in The Sopranos, particularly with just violence against women, just in general. There's a lot of it. It's just really uncomfortable to watch.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, the show is essentially, at this point, it's this conflict of the rules, the very rigid, strict rules of this whole system, and this, the mob or whatever, and how those rules will always kind of conflict with what feels morally correct, and the way that stuff affects the people and stuff like that. It's a really interesting problem, I guess, in the whole show. It's not just like direct conflicts to go kill that guy. It's the bigger picture of why is this happening and why is it affecting this dude.
Dang, okay. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it'd be a pretty fun show. Not fun, but like a really good show to watch, or like an interesting show to watch.
Yeah, it's hard to it's hard to watch with Synovia sometimes.
Yeah, I imagine so. How does it compare to something like The Departed?
I've never seen The Departed.
Really?
I've never seen it. I've been meaning to watch it for the longest time.
You should. If you like, you I think will like that movie.
Cool. Yeah, I think
because it sounds on the surface somewhat similar. But I've also never watched The Sopranos, but I did like The Departed quite a bit.
Yeah, I've seen the cover 1,000 times. I've just never seen the movie.
Yeah, I think there's some lines in that movie you will actually crack up at. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, just there's one that I'm almost 100% sure that if you watched it, you'd probably laugh when he says it.
Yeah, I have it. I think I own that movie, so I should just watch it at some point because it's been on my list for the longest time. But yeah, I don't know. Just wanted to give an update. Sopranos. I've got like 20 episodes left, and then the whole show is done. Nice. And then I'll probably might watch Game of Thrones because my mom she keeps asking me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can. That show is. I enjoyed that show. I don't know if you're gonna be able to enjoy it because a lot of things in it I know you don't like. So
I think I just need to get over it. I have this weird thing of just an aversion to shit I don't like already. You know what I mean? Because I've never liked swords. I've never liked dragons. I've never liked fantasy. I've never liked accents. So all those things are Game of Thrones.
some of those people, those are just the regular accents. I want you to know that because a lot of them aren't American.
I but I also don't hear that accent much, so it's hard for me to enjoy someone speaking with that accent. It's hard, you know. And it just seems very dense. It's the opposite of the kind of thing I like, so it's kind of a challenge for me to appreciate it, even if I don't like it. Because I don't appreciate it right now. I fucking hate that shit.
I like fantasy quite a bit, so that fits very much in like my wheelhouse.
I respect it.
Yeah, I like Breaking Bad is outside mine. That's one of those things that I think is fun about our friendship is that you like stuff like Breaking Bad, and I really I find it very difficult to get into, but I like fantasy stuff, and you have a hard time getting into it, and yet somehow we've been friends for like 16 years.
Is that real? 16 years?
I'm 27.
We haven't been friends for 16. We've known each other for 16 years.
Something like that, yeah.
We've been friends for like 14 years.
Oh, sorry.
What the fuck is he? But yeah, we
my world-renowned math skills, of course.
But yeah, what's been going on with you?
A couple of things. My brother and I started playing World of Warcraft again. So that has
Nice.
very, very much consumed my life and time.
Did that second expansion
Not yet. So in May, they open up the beta for it right now, but I'm not going to play the beta because why would I? I'm going to play the actual game. And I have to still get to the point where we can play the actual game once it comes out. From what I understand, they're going to do the pre-patch in May, which the pre-patch will change a lot of stuff in the game. Basically, it's like an in-between part where they won't give us the new content, but all of the current content will be updated to meet what the new content is going to ask of it, basically.
What does that mean?
So like a couple of things, like in the new expansion, to get from level 1 to level 60 takes a lot shorter than in the original version of the game to go from 1 to 60. They just crunched how much XP you need. And so that's going to happen in the pre-patch phase. So leveling up will be faster. They also reworked what I call like an RPG, like a roguelike, you have talents or like things that you can pick as you level up as you progress.
Yeah.
They changed how those work for two reasons. One, there's more because you can get to a higher level max. But two, they reworked all of them to make all of the little because there's 3 options for each class, and each of those options becomes viable finally. In the original version, basically if you played a warrior, you were going to tank. If you played any class that had a heal, you were a healer. If you played a class that didn't have a heal and you weren't a warrior, you were a damage, and that was basically it. But in Burning Crusade, in the next expansion, they kind of fixed a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of that will happen in the pre-patch. So the game should become really interesting for a lot of people to play the old content with the new specs and stuff like that.
So it's they changed the mechanics, but not the actual content of what you do with it.
It's basically everything besides what you actually are doing.
Yeah.
They changed how you do it. All that stuff and how you interact with it is much improved. Okay. So that should all happen in May from the leaks that I saw. And then at some point they're going to come out with the actual expansion. So as long as I'm at the point where we can actually do the actual expansion when that game comes out, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Do you think that's I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to articulate. It seems like a bad spot where the most hyped thing happening to your game is that you're reverting it to 2006.
Mm-hmm. It is not a good look.
Do you think that WoW is just going to keep doing their remastering or whatever, their expansions until they're done, and then they just start doing new stuff again that people don't like, or they kind of fork?
Well, so they have 2 teams. One team builds the new games. Retail actually just got its expansion too.
Okay.
So retail is like the modern version, right? That just got an expansion. It's like they're progressing the modern version still. And from what I hear, the modern version is actually better than it had been previously. So that's cool, but I don't play it.
Right.
But what they're doing for the new version, like the old version, is you can stay in what's called classic vanilla, which is what we're on right now. You can choose to stay in there, or you can progress to the next expansion. So, or you can choose to do both, but that's going to cost you a little bit of money. So you can choose to have your character get cloned. One version of that character stays in the classic version. The other character moves on to the next expansion. And then I guess they're going to just keep doing that. So you're going to be able to like move your character up, or you can just keep them in one expansion. So I'm going to expansion lock once Wrath of the Lich King comes out, because that was basically Wrath of the Lich King is not this coming expansion, but the next one. And it was considered the best expansion for a lot of reasons, but also it had the highest number of players. Okay. It's like that's when World of Warcraft hit its like absolute maximum, when you'd like see ads for it, and like it had a group like Mountain Dew had World of Warcraft flavors, and so like, all that happened like in Wrath of the Lich King.
I remember that because even I was like, damn, I might want to play that.
Yeah,
I never. Yeah,
that was the best expansion. That one was like the craziest, like from a storytelling perspective, because World of Warcraft's based on like the old Warcraft games, right? And so in leading up to Warcraft 3, they're like, oh, like these like super evil demons called like the Burning Legion, like they showed up and they're like destroying everything, and it's all like a nightmare, but they end up like eking out and like defeating the Burning Legion. And then in the like expansion for that game,
Cataclysm.
It was Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos, and then the expansion for it was the Frozen Throne. It's Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne.
Okay.
Frozen Throne introduced the Lich King, which is like the undead dude, and he's like the super crazy strong dude, and you actually like play as him, and you like go through the whole motions, and he like falls to like, yeah, it's like you basically like follow this dude who like becomes the Lich King, and so you have like a real connection to the Lich King throughout Warcraft 3. And then in World of Warcraft, in Wrath of the Lich King, that's when you actually like fight him. It's like you go up and you're fighting this dude who you like know the whole backstory for.
Yeah.
And so like from a storytelling perspective, it like ties together a lot of like basically like Wrath of the Lich King could have been the end of World of Warcraft, like end of that. It's like it capped off everything from like Warcraft 1 up to what like so it was sick. It was crazy. It was a lot of fun. They basically like they polished up the game quite a bit from that point, and since then all they've been doing is trying to like recreate that magic. And I mean, they don't have like really long storylines anymore. Like every storyline they have now is like one expansion at most, and sometimes they like just give up halfway through. So it's like it's not as fun anymore.
Yeah, I don't think I realized until like a year ago that people actually gave a fuck about those stories. I always thought it was like a thing to play with the sound off and listen to podcasts forever. So the idea of people caring about the Warcraft story is like new to me.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do play it with just like the sound off and stuff, but like that whole expansion is definitely built on like, here's the story and here's what like you're trying, like the reason you go up there isn't for nothing. Like that expansion during its pre-patch, right? Like the day of its pre-patch, it starts off with every major city in the world and a bunch of minor cities getting attacked by undead. So anywhere you are in the whole world, basically, you're just forced to deal with like these undead guys attacking your city. And so it's like immediately like, oh, like we're really like, this is like everyone who's playing this game right now needs to know that like the undead are coming. And so the whole expansion from that point is like, you have to go up there. And as you play and like, as you level up, you get like closer and closer to the Lich King. And they give you like cinematics and stuff to like listen to and watch. And you just get like closer and closer. And then finally, when you get to like that last raid and you're like fighting, honestly, like when they unlock the last raid, they also gave you like some dungeons. And that was the first time like you, the player, came into face to face with the Lich King. And all of those interactions were like terrifying. There was one where he chases you and you can sit there and just do as much damage as you want, but like it doesn't do anything. It's like literally like you're running away from him and trying to like deal damage, and it's like you're not doing anything. And then to like fight him and kill him was, I don't know. That the Wrath of the Lich King was a great expansion. I think from a storytelling perspective, from like a mechanics perspective, just like one of the best. That's probably like one of the best games I've ever played, honestly, straight up.
Nice. That's cool. I feel like I missed that whole era. Like I had a friend, basically when World of Warcraft was kind of new in middle school, 2005 or so. he was like, "Oh, bro, we've been playing WoW. Well, we just kept saying WoW.
Mm-hmm.
Like the word WoW came out of his mouth 40 times in a minute.
Yeah.
And they were already too cool to say World of Warcraft because at that point it was the hot new shit. If you said the full name, you were fucking square, you know? So they kept saying WoW, whatever. And then just on the bus, we were constantly just talking about, I was hearing them talk about World of Warcraft, but I never cared. And I still don't. Not in terms of like whatever. I don't want to play for myself. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad, like, not glad. I'm okay with having missed it. It's just I missed it, and it's kind of cool to watch from afar for me.
Yeah, and I feel that way about other things too. But yeah, I'm excited for that specifically. But I'm also excited for Burning Crusade because that was like leading up, basically like from Classic to Wrath of the Lich King, like numbers, like the number of players and like all that stuff was like slowly building.
Yeah, and
then after Wrath of the Lich King, like those numbers, like they took a nosedive.
Right.
Pretty straight down into hell. Like I think they have like several like I think like an order of 10 less like percent less players, something like that. Or no, I think they've lost like 10% more players each expansion or something since Wrath of the Lich King or something like insane, like huge drop off.
Makes sense though. I don't think MMOs can really like. It just seems like the world is different.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, the world is different, and also like, World of Warcraft like paved the way for a bunch of other stuff to happen for video games, so it kind of makes sense that like it would get outdone,
right?
Eventually.
Yeah, but I don't even know if anybody's trying. I mean, I don't know anybody who cares about MMOs outside of WoW.
I know like Final Fantasy has an MMO that's like pretty popular, but I mean that's pretty niche.
Yeah.
I don't really know any MMOs that are like ongoing anymore though.
Yeah, and we're also not really into MMOs in general again. But that's kind of what I'm saying. We went from I saw Wrath of the Lich King stuff marketing as a kid, and my friends were all talking about it. And when I went to my friend's house, we played it. I was like, whatever. That was the thing that kids talked about. I don't know what kids talk about, but I know adults don't talk about it.
Yeah, they don't. I think I'm interested to see what happens with that because like Call of Duty and stuff had Mountain Dew deals and things like that. I really wonder like what would replace shooters in games now.
It's still shooters. It's like Fortnite or whatever.
Yeah, well, I wonder like if shooters like the genre are gonna die, like the same way like MMOs have kind of dropped off and RTSs before that, and like MOBAs like before that, like after that as well. Like I'm interested to see what would happen with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because I've been playing Call of Duty 2 this past week. Just I don't know why, but because I kind of went full boomer recently and just started realizing I want to collect games I care about, physical games that don't exist on Steam and you can't really get anymore. Whatever. I went on this whole thing, so I was playing Call of Duty 2, and it looks kind of shittier. It plays a little slower. It's a little different. Mm-hmm. But that game is the same as the most recent Call of Duty. I mean, I'm doing the same things, and it's still the dominant genre. And I think Call of Duty 2 was kind of the start of when World War II shooters were really like people were exhausted of that shit.
Yeah.
But it's still the thing, and I don't personally. Nothing seems that it could possibly take over the whole shooter genre because that's all people like. Mm-hmm. People just like guns and shooting and explosions and shit. It's not going to be a slow story heavy thing that's going to sell 30 million copies to 16-year-olds. This is not.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anything even could. I mean, part of what replaced RTSs was internet getting faster.
Wait, replace RTSs?
Mm-hmm. Basically, like RTSs were really good when everyone had garbage internet because you could play it with bad internet and be okay, kind of.
Okay.
But as internet sped up, like other games became an option. So you could, like if you had dial-up, you basically only could play RTSs if you were going to play online because otherwise, like, you really couldn't compete.
Because the pace of the game can handle. Okay, got it. I see what you're saying.
So I wonder if something like that, like a technological like bump, is the only thing that could like unseat like shooters.
I can see. I don't know. To me, the thing that requires that latency stuff is fighting games, and people like fighting games because it requires the down to the frame timing and planning. It's like a game of chess kind of, but it's timing that's so important. But people like fighting game community is pretty niche. I don't think anybody is looking for less latency in what they have right now. I think people are pretty happy with it, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
Unless you have, I guess you could do like group VR stuff, but that barrier to entry is so crazy high. It's not like VR is going to be the thing.
I mean, you could also have like VR shooters though.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It sounds so heavy. If I can go and I can play Arizona Sunshine and it's fun, it's a good experience for 30 minutes, but if I know I have to put on that fucking headset and set up my stupid light towers and all these goddamn cables, like, I don't want that. I just want to go play Call of Duty for 5 minutes and smoke a blunt. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah, brother.
Fuck all this.
Yeah. I mean, that's but see, like, if miniaturization, right? Like, if they fix some of the like bulkiness of VR, maybe that might. But I mean, VR shooters sounds like it would be hilariously fun to play.
There's a VR battle royale shooter that I saw, which is a cool idea, but yeah, like you're saying, the way that it is right now, I think it's hilarious that 100 people would all be doing that with the cables running and a big bulky thing, all playing against each other in a way that lasts. People aren't doing that in 5 years. Like, oh my God, I gotta jack in real quick to go and get.
You don't think we're gonna get like a Ready Player One type society?
Unless you have a lightweight wireless thing or whatever, no, people are never gonna like live in their VR world.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Also, like the energy demands would be insane.
Brother, I'm like gonna become a prepper, and I'm gonna solar power everything I have in the house, so I won't worry about that kind of shit. But that's a separate thing.
Are you gonna get like a solar powered cell phone charger?
What is that a thing? I didn't know that was a thing. No, my plan was there's a generator you can get. This is like the start of my prepper journey. I mean, obviously it's going to get much worse, but there's a generator you can buy.
500 pounds of uncooked beans or something. When I go visit his house, and they'll be like, "That's the bean closet." And I'm going there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to a bean closet, so we'll see where this whole thing goes. But no, yeah, it's just a generator where you can get an external solar panel on it, and then you basically just let it sit out in the sun. There's a lot of that here. And then this generator just collects the power, and it can, I think the generator can power a gas grill for like 4 hours by itself.
Oh, cool.
So it's like a crazy amount of thing, and it's just soaking up from the sun. Just because I don't want to pay TEP, fuck them.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, solar is pretty sick here.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, I don't know if they still do buybacks here.
I think they do.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, if you do like you generate more than you need or whatever.
Yeah, I imagine it'd be pretty easy to do in summer.
Yeah. Yeah, and our electricity bill like triples in the summer because we keep the AC on.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
No, yeah, I just wanted to mention my boomer thing. I kind of talked about it briefly about my Call of Duty segue that I had earlier, but I had this realization that I deeply care about the things I care about.
Is this because of the Resident Evil Raccoon City thing?
Kind of.
Oh no! All right.
So for context about why Yazeed's referencing Operation Raccoon City, Yazeed's brother and I have a long-running stupid thing where we basically just give each other copies of Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City because that game's fucking trash. And it's like a funny thing where we just buy it for each other over and over again, but we keep buying new copies. We're not gifting it to each other. And so it was this joke of like, we're basically gonna have all of the copies that are left, and then the price is gonna go up because it's so rare or whatever. Anyway, that was kind of a related thing. And it was earlier this week, I watched The Last Blockbuster on Netflix, which is a documentary about the last Blockbuster, which we can talk about, whatever. But before that is when I got my Xbox 360 from my mom's house because Synovia wanted to play Dance Central. So I just needed to get my old Xbox, and then that's when I found my old games, and then that's when I realized I don't care about games like I care about these games. And it's not because these are like, well, maybe because it's in my mom's house, so I have like the nostalgia thing, but I like these games and I care about them, and they're going away in the same way that I care about Guitar Hero controllers because they're only going away. They're not, the number of them that exist isn't going up.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, the games I care about. So I was in like a bidding war on a bunch of Vita games on eBay. I'm in a dark place right now, man. I don't know what the fuck. So I was buying PSP games, 3DS games. I was just going on eBay and typing in game lot, which is what people do when they just sell basically everything in their garage at once. And it's like, yeah, fuck, I'll take it, whatever. Because I just want to collect games. Not all games, only games I care about, but I care about a lot of games. So that's where I'm at. I bought Miami Vice on PSP in the middle of the night the other night Synovia and I went to bed, and we were like, oh, you know, good night or whatever, because normally we'll talk for a little bit, and then when you say good night, that's when you actually go to sleep. So we did that, and then I was just up thinking, because I had seen a YouTube video that day about a dude reviewing Miami Vice on the PSP, because that's what my YouTube is on these days. I'm just so deep, you know? And so I was thinking, I really liked Miami Vice on the PSP when I played it a long time ago. I'll never play it again, but I like that I had it. And I think the core of it is that I sold so many of my games to GameStop when I was a kid. And my collection went to them, and I really always regretted it, but I needed the money to like get new games because that was always the thing. But you would take 10 games out and you get one that you hate, and it's just like, well, fuck. You're losing your whole collection, and I just want to rebuild that whole thing because I don't like that I sold so many games. Like there was one time I went to Game Crazy, but it was the Hollywood Video GameStop, basically.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, this is worth nothing to us. You could donate it to us. And I said, yeah. Like, what a fucking idiot, man. Like, why did I do that, you know?
Yeah.
A stupid kid, whatever. But yeah, I'm just trying to build up a collection again because I love that whole era of games, and realizing that like my kids won't know what a DS cartridge is or an NES cartridge. That shit's gonna be crazy to them, you know? I don't know.
We have different approaches on historiography. I can see. I think it's cool that you have found a way of connecting and saving a part of something that you think is really important, though. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, but I don't even know why. I'm still exploring this whole thing because there are people who are trying to collect every game ever released for the Nintendo Entertainment System, right? Pristine condition, best quality box, whatever. I'll pay thousands of dollars for the last remaining sealed copy, like those kinds of people. I'm not into that. I'm not trying to do that. I don't think it's my thing or whatever. Super respect people who do, whatever. But like I said, I just want every game I care about, and I don't want them to go away. And I don't know why, but I'm just in this thing of trying to collect stuff because I feel like it's ending. Something is ending. The fact that GameStop is gonna stop selling Xbox 360 games at a certain point. This is what I mean. I'm like a boomer. Yeah, I'm like trying to hold on to this thing that's going away, and because I know that I think it's better. That's definition of boomer logic.
Kind of, yeah.
And I know it's flawed, but I think it's right. It's really weird.
I mean, I think as long as you're not hurting anybody and you're finding enjoyment in it, then it's okay. Like, don't get into internet arguments with people like about why Call of Duty 2 is better than whatever the most recent Call of Duty is or something like that. That's when I know that you'll have taken a really dark turn, when I see that you've tweeted out at like the director of the most recent Call of Duty, like, why is your game so trash compared to, and then at the director of Call of Duty 2's game or something. That's when I know you've gone off the deep end.
But see, I guess that's not even what I don't even think that those games are better. I don't think Call of Duty 2 is necessarily better than the most recent or whatever. I just think it's cool that Call of Duty 2 exists on a disc in a case with artwork. And that case with artwork and a disc and a book, they don't even do books anymore. And then they started using, the kind of shift to digital. And it's just this transition that you see, and I'm trying to hold on to the old thing. I just like that Call of Duty 2 exists on a disc, and I want it. That's kind of where I'm at.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, but then it becomes, where am I storing all these discs? What am I doing with these discs? When I die, that's what I mean. I'm kind of in like a thing. I don't know what I'm thinking of, but I'm thinking of it. You know what I mean? When I die, what happens to all these PS2 games I own? What happens to these 3DS games I own?
Yeah.
Do I like give them to my kid, and they're just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to sell these for drug money, you know?
I mean, that depends on your kid.
I guess I have to raise them correctly or whatever.
What your kid does with your stuff is dependent on how you raise your child. But also, like, I think, for me, I grew up playing on like the N64, right? That was like the first console, and like the PlayStation 1, and like I kind of like followed all those through, and then eventually I made it to PC gaming, and then like I stopped collecting like physical things because it was all digital for PC, and I was kind of fine with that. My cousin, who's quite young, he's taken a different approach, right? Like for me, growing up, like it was kind of like me and my brother played console games and my uncle played PC games. So it was like, oh, like I need to eventually get old enough and like have the correct amount of dexterity and understanding to like play on a computer. But now that I'm at that point, my cousin is like the different because my uncle still plays on the computer. I still play on the computer. My brother still plays on console, and my cousin doesn't play any computer games. He's only playing console games.
Yeah.
And when I've asked him like, oh, do you like want to play like this game with me? And it's like, no, I don't play those kinds of games.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool. Like the kinds of games. But I mean, I'm kind of okay with that. For me, it's like, there's no, I don't really feel like you have to, like, I don't feel an urge to hold on to that physically.
Yeah.
Because somewhere written in the annals of history in some Wikipedia page, they actually do explain like, oh yeah, like the first like an N64 cartridge created by this one dude, and that eventually became CDs, and that eventually became digital, and like that's why we don't have CDs anymore or like cartridges anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think the fact that if there's a documented history of a thing, that's obviously really cool. But if you have the thing itself, it's even better. And obviously, the value of a Call of Duty disc is very little. It's a CD with, this is just a complaint on GameStop. I'm going to show you this, Yazeed. I might make this the picture on this week's thing. But this is Raccoon City. It came in the mail just before I drove here today. But look at the corner. It's super fucked. If you care about like preserving the games and wanting it to be as close as it originally was, just for preservation, whatever, GameStop isn't doing it right. Yeah. People who bring their games into GameStop aren't doing it right. They're, they treat their shit like shit, which it's fine. You own it, whatever. But if you're going to give it back to kind of the world that does care about it, like you should keep that shit together. Don't. Yeah. It looks like someone smashed that with a hammer. Like someone intentionally broke that.
It kind of does. Yeah.
It's probably just like, oh fuck, and this game's terrible. Might have been Reese when I gave him a copy. But yeah, I don't know. It's a thing where I don't know why I'm doing it, but I do think these things will exist. They'll only deteriorate. People who care about them should own them instead of people who don't care about them. Yeah,
I mean, this is somewhat tangentially related, but there is a real lack of old like VODs or recordings of old competitive video games. So like it's very difficult now to find even like League of Legends, right? Huge game, the biggest like esport in the world still, I think. You can't find old games. There's one game on the beta that you can find, and it's so famous because 4 of the players went on to be really big later, and that's the only reason why that game is alive anymore. Or that game, like that recording is alive. Like old school like Quake and stuff like that, they're gone. Like, because no one has, like, whoever has those on recordings, like, they either have stopped holding on to those or whatever. Like, the companies that did have it, right? Because, like, before Twitch TV, there was something called Justin TV and then Own TV. And those ones are gone, and they don't have they may have their data somewhere on something that's been sold a couple of times, maybe. But, yeah, like, those are gone, too. So...
Wasn't it like Ustream? Justin TV became Twitch or something?
Justin TV, I think, became Twitch, and then I think Ustream died, and owned 3D was the company, and they were competing with Twitch, and then they died.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember when Justin TV was the thing, and I went to Tynan's house, and he was just like, "Hey, you want to like stream us playing Call of Duty?" I was like, "What? That's fucking stupid." It's the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah, if you guys had become famous back then, if you had like a viewer, that was like huge.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just funny to watch. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. It's funny to watch the game industry change when you think you understand it, and then you get older and you don't understand it, and then you have like this connection to video games, but then you realize it's like this cold business that doesn't give a fuck about you or what you like. Yeah, and so you have to find your own thing in it. That's kind of my summary.
I think it's true, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because people are like, they're just trying to grab the biggest market share at any time. So, like, they're just going after like what most people would like. If you're into like really niche stuff, like you are and kind of I am too, you gotta go like find it. You can go find it in the indie bin, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, the indie bin. I'm planning on going to GameStop after this to go through their bin of Xbox 360 games. Just buy anything under $1 or under $5.
They basically still have an Xbox 360
I'm
bin?
hoping. If they don't, then I'm going to go to Zia or something because they probably have 360 stuff. But
Bookman's, if we even have one anymore.
Yeah, we have one Bookman's, the other one closed. But
oh, dang. Okay.
That's kind of what I'm saying. If you care about these things, to me right now, there's GameStop and then 2 local places, and they've only been closing locations in the past couple of years. It's going away. And if I care about it, I have to do something to get my part of it before it fully goes away.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much all my notes. I'm almost done with Ratchet and Clank too.
Hey, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. The last thing I think I wanted to talk about was, as you can tell if you're watching this, I'm wearing my G2 jersey, and that's because playoffs has started for League of Legends in the West and in China. I don't think Korea is in their playoffs yet, but
is that what you were watching when I came in?
Yeah. Well, I was watching the post match of today. Basically, like in Europe, which is like the region that I follow the most, the number 1 team chose the number 4 team to play, and yesterday they played, and the number 1 team barely won in like some super crazy comeback after in 5 games. Because they play a best of 5 series, so they played all 5 games, and finally like the number 1 seed team got through. And then today the 2 and 3 seed team played, and they have a lot of history between the two of them that like came in together. And like one has always been like, oh, we're like the controlled, like we're controlled, we're like correctly like playing the game out, and the other one is like they're wild and crazy, like they play the game like super on the edge, basically between like genius and like complete like brain dead, like just throwing it out there. And they played today, and the number 3 team beat the number 2 team in a crazy series. Yeah, the last game was an insane, like just sheer showing of like how mechanically good they are at the game. So it was kind of sick to watch. But yeah, next week I think is number 1 and 3 will play, and then number 4 and number 6 will play, because 6 beat 5 on Friday. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. I kind of get it when you talk about the underdog stories and that whole kind of thing, and that's why you care so much. Obviously not. I don't really not enough to watch anything, but I do understand. Because like in 2013, my cousin had this thing where he was just like, "Hey, you want to go over to my house because I fucking hate Floyd Mayweather and I want to see him lose." And he's fighting this dude, and I think he's gonna lose. At the time, he was like 30-0 or 25-0 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, I don't give a shit about boxing, but I'll go hang out with you and like watch you want to watch this man fail. That sounds cool. And that whole thing was the thing. I don't know anything about boxing, but I loved that night. You know?
Yeah.
Floyd won, by the way.
Yeah, I mean that man I think has never lost a
he's
fight.
Undefeated.
Yeah, he's too good at boxing. Yeah, this part of it is like watching the underdog win. Some of it's like rooting for like your favorite team, your favorite players. For me, a lot of it is I pick teams based on like how they play. It's like there's certain things like in how they play that I really like, and I like watching teams play that way. So when they're winning, I'm like super into it and like super amped up. When they're losing, I'm like super bummed and like ugh. Yeah. Or like when something happens and you can't play that way anymore, I'm just like really sad. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of it is stuff like that. I mean, right now, like North America is really garbage to watch. Like I wouldn't recommend, but if you were gonna get into it, Europe is insane, and Korea has one really good team and then a couple okay teams, and China is very hard to watch because I don't know if they even have an English stream for it, but so they're really nuts too. They're like world champions a couple of times too. So
nice.
Yeah.
To everyone listening out there, if you have any input on this League of Legends nerd shit, help me out here. Give us some feedback. Give us your take.
Listen, you're just gonna become a fan of G2 just like me. You're gonna love the best team in the West has ever produced, and you're gonna go into all the world championships and any international competition. You're gonna root for Europe like a good boy. And North America is going to get out here, and America's going to get spanked, and we're just going to laugh about it. It's going to be great.
I can't endorse anyone saying America's going to get spanked in anything, so I can't be on board, you know?
I have a friend who's like that, too, and he only ever roots for North America, and then he gets really bummed when they get absolutely, I was going to say something inappropriate, they get absolutely just dunked on internationally. It really cracks me up. Last year at the World Championship, the number 1 team from North America played 6 games, and they lost all 6 of them.
Nice.
In pretty one-sided fashion, a lot of them. So it was very much like, oh, cool, like the North American teams are showing up to get wrecked again.
Yeah. It is nice knowing that me and the professionals from my region are on the same level. We'd have the same result. 0-6.
0-6, dude, just absolutely getting wrecked.
Yeah.
My European teams tend to do okay.
Nice.
Historically, and hopefully will continue to do okay historically.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you ever bet on that stuff? Once I thought of that question, I realized you shouldn't. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I can't answer that question legally in the state of Arizona.
Okay. Cool.
No, I'm kidding. I have made bets with friends about like buying jerseys and stuff like that. I've never done like a bet on. There is a betting site, but you can't be in Arizona and do it. And I don't have an address in another state to use. So unfortunately, I can't bet unless I move.
So you've researched this. You're in deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know about state law.
I would have won money a couple of times if I could actually have put money on it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of bummed that I can't, because your boy would have been up quite a bit of money.
It's for the best.
All of the jerseys I own, I've earned from winning bets. I'll put it that way, and I own more than 2.
It's pretty impressive. So 3 then?
I think I own 3 or 4. Yeah.
Wow, more than 2. You heard it here first, folks. Impressive number here.
All right, you ready to move on to home game stuff?
Home game stuff. Yeah, we don't have any notes or not clear notes on here, so I was like, Song of the week is next. I don't know. Yeah, home game stuff. Did you have any?
Yeah. So this week I was working on building the vision stuff that we talked about, because last week I didn't do anything. So this week I was working on getting the vision stuff kind of nailed out, and I actually realized a couple of things. One, I don't need that complex of a vision system for my game, because everything is squares, and I don't actually show partials. So basically, like what we were talking about for a while now was how to do vision properly in home games. And one of the I basically, like, the idea that I landed on, that I was like, this is probably the best approach we have for 2-dimensional vision, is you build a vision shape, right? A vision polygon, and anything in that polygon, if anything comes into that polygon, we mark as a collision. And then we split up that polygon to figure out like vision vectors, basically, right? So that if you have like a triangle as your vision shape, you can split that triangle into, say, 10 smaller triangles. And as those triangles collide, we can stop that triangle from progressing. So in that way, you have vision that's fanned properly and is cut properly to shape what the actual world is that you're viewing, right? Basically, it's very similar to how people actually see, but the difference is, instead of it being contiguous like a human, it is not contiguous, right? Because basically the smaller the small triangles inside of the big triangle become, the more you approximate contiguousness. Basically, like you build an integral. Anyway, that's like a lot of math stuff.
You got like the average change across a chunk instead of the actual change across the change.
Yes, exactly. Which would be correct. That is the correct approach, I think, for 2-dimensional vision still. But because my stuff is all squares, and you either see a square because it's in your vision, or you don't see it, you don't see partials of the square right now. I have 2 options in front of me. One option is basically I make each major square actually a combination of very small squares, that if you see, like, say, 3 of the squares, you see only those 3 and you don't see beyond it, which is more similar to like how Among Us works, right? If you've played that game. Sorry, that's a lot of words. But I think in reality, because my game is mostly squares and is pretty simple, I don't actually need that complicated a vision right now. So what I might do is not implement the full fanned out vision and just say, like, you either are in vision or you're not. And so instead I just have some squares as around you, around, like, on your, say, your back, your right, your left, and then in front of you maybe a couple layers of squares as well, maybe a couple more. So you have like a vision shape still, but it doesn't have to get cut, because either you see the full square in your vision or you don't. There's not really like an in-between. And partially the reason for that is I could work with the triangle, but there's really no reason to, because you can't move in a direction that isn't one square at a time. So like your triangle would only show you like as you move one whole square anyway. So I could make it more smaller steps and keep the vision. And basically, like, I could make a lot of changes to the mechanics of this game to make the vision work properly doing it that way. Or I could change the vision to just be okay enough to meet the criteria for this game. And I think I'm going to go with that one, just to have like a simple vision, simple game, and then we can iterate on that later. And partially the reasoning for that is that I can meet my goal of having a game out by April. So.
I was thinking of that goal. I was like, damn, that 4 games in 4 quarters is looking a little tight right now.
No,
I didn't want to mention it.
We can hit it. Basically, if I needed to do the full vision, like square, like right, basically I need to rework the whole core of my game to get that to work, which would take me a while because I move somewhat slowly.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that. And then maybe I'll come back later and fix it up. Because the other thing, too, is I can take a lot of what I've learned from this and apply it to Square. So I could up Square as well. So, I mean, I think it might just be like a second pass on Square, learn some stuff there, and come back and fix up color tag again. And then maybe there's a little bit of back and forth as I figure some more stuff out. Yeah. But Square doesn't need vision because it's just top-down like Frogger anyway. So, yeah.
That totally makes sense. I think it's a hard lesson for me to like live by too. It's easy to hear it and understand it, but I think the importance of being iterative is like really key for specifically what we're doing because our time is so
tight,
strained.
Yeah.
And it's just us. And so it's you can think of what you need to do, think of the general ways that you can get there. But when you actually sit down and you say, this is my finish line, and I'm not going to be finished until I hit the finish line, you're basically never going to hit it because you're going to run into all this shit the same way that we've been doing for the past 2 years, basically doing this thing, which is like, oh, I think I can do this, and I'm just going to do it. But if you keep going forward and never look up to think if this is where you should be, you're going to just waste your time and probably go down the wrong path because you don't have that like breadth of knowledge. Mm-hmm. You're just so laser focused on your task, and you might realize later that it doesn't even fit with what else you're building. And it's really hard. Like, you know, I worked at a small startup where that guy's a real business. The thing was get out what we need, and we had customers obviously, so we can think what the customers need. But right now, our customers are ourselves, and so we can't really do that. It's like a very exploratory thing, and it's very hard to put a goal on exploring.
Yeah.
And then working at a large company, I've had this thing where, you know, you have a project that you have to get done at a certain time, and there's all these systems that are established, and the work is making sure everything will keep working after because of the complexity of the systems, and that's why it takes so much time, but that iterative stuff doesn't quite work. So we're in a different space because we don't have a business, and we don't have customers, and we don't have money, and we don't have like risk for if anything goes wrong. Like, we don't really care. I mean, we care obviously, but yeah, nothing's gonna.
We're not monetarily tied to the fate of Homegames right now.
Yeah, like we can stop doing this tomorrow, and it would make us sad, but our lives would be fine.
Yeah,
like, you know. And so, I just think realizing that we have to pace ourselves and kind of do what we can, and that's been a thing for me with infrastructure stuff. You know, I can't have like a perfectly distributed, scaled Lambda state machine workflow thing for this process that should be that. I can understand that it should be that. Best practice, whatever, but like I'm not doing that shit. Mm-hmm. And I think we should be comfortable with saying I'm not doing that shit.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those things where, yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like I would really like to hit the goal of 1 game a quarter. As you kind of run into problems, you're like, oh shoot, we need a way of doing this. We need a way of doing this. We need a way of doing this. And now it's like at this point, it's like, oh, well, I actually have to like make the game still. So it's like, oh, oops, like I have to do the thing that I was supposed to at the beginning.
Yeah, man.
But there wasn't a way to make that game without all this other stuff in the first place.
Yeah.
And to make another game, it will be easier. I mean, in theory, would be easier because I have to make the fewer systems to support it. Yeah. Unfortunately, by the time I make a new game, I'll probably have to make new systems to support it. So it's like, oh, it's like an ever ongoing, iterative, just figuring out what you're doing. And the other thing too is like vision is quite complicated, and I don't think we could ever tackle it in one go. I think whatever we do with vision, or really like any major step like that, should be done like, here's like super ultra like baby mode basic version, and then it's like, oh, now here's like, you know, toddler version, and here's, child version and teenager version. And here's like the adult version, like the matured version. That sounds not like that. I mean, like, the matured, like a aged wine approach of making it.
Not the porn version of the Squisher.
Yeah, the porn version of
X-rated
the
squish.
X-rated squish. No, that sounds a little bit too on the nose.
But yeah, no, that totally sounds reasonable, and I think, I think we won't know where things should be done until we can look that we already finished it. I don't think we can plan for something to be done in the future. I think we can look at something that we've done and be like, oh, that's actually kind of working the way that we thought it would. We're kind of looking at this goal over here, but we ended up finishing this thing over here. Kind of like your holistic hippie view of the world of like everything I do helps me do everything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
What do you mean that's a hippie
That's
view
some
of
hippie
the
shit,
world?
dude.
That is the truth.
Hippies can be right, but they're still hippies.
That should be the tagline of this episode. Hippies can be right, but they're still hippies. What are you, man? What home game stuff do you bring to the table?
Quite a bit actually.
This isn't a table, but as the viewers, it might as well be.
Yeah, I bring to the countertop today I made some sketches for what the website layout should be, the Homegames.io website. Now that we're gonna have this kind of administrative tooling for game developers to, basically create and view the games that they as developers make, and then the assets that are associated with those games. So kind of these screens for your assets just in general, because not every asset needs to be associated to a game, or you think about an asset being associated to many games. If I have one image in every game that I have, it's like my one sprite in a sequel or whatever. It can exist in 2 games, it could exist in no games and just be an asset that you're going to use at some point. So I'm making a game and I'm making assets. I'm kind of sketching, I'm kind of freestyling. I don't really know what I'm doing yet, but I have these assets and I want to put them in the system. Maybe I'll use them, maybe I won't. That's basically that use case there.
We may want to put an upper limit on how many you can do that with, or like a timeout on those.
Well, so I have a limit now. You can't upload anything more than 50 megabytes. I just think as a blanket thing, if you're uploading more than 50, maybe we can have exceptions or whatever, but I really don't think we should.
Yeah.
Because if you're running keep in mind, at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a simple thing. If you have you made a cut scene for your game, maybe don't, it's not the place for it. So stuff like that, or any large files, and just to protect us against someone putting up 4 terabytes of data constantly just to fuck us on our S3 bill or whatever.
Yeah.
Which would be bad for them too. I don't know, but anyway, so I was doing those little mock-ups, and yeah, there are some limits that we should put in place there in terms of what people can upload, how much they can upload, and I think in the future there's a possibility for basically a premium tier. You have like a free storage limit, because we do pay for the storage people are using. So if it's like, hey, you used a gigabyte of your free storage, why don't you go ahead and give us some money and whatever, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Just because that one doesn't feel like a shitty way to monetize things. It feels pretty upfront. Like, we are providing this to you and pay us.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was kind of that. And then I had the other mock-up for the kind of game admin page, just like a list of games, and kind of thinking, I don't like front-end frameworks, especially for a website that's mostly static like this. So I don't want to use component libraries like React or whatever. But in the visual stuff for the mock-ups, I am thinking of ways I can kind of build common UI components with just vanilla JS and share them between things. And that. Also realizing that I need to change the web app to kind of like a single page web app, not because of design philosophy, but because it makes my life easier. I don't want to use cookies.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything legal, but every website I go on gives me like 14 things saying that they're using cookies to improve my experience, whatever the fuck. I think they're legally required on some level to tell us they're storing some sort of thing on our browser.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I'm guessing. I don't want to look into it or deal with it. I don't give a fuck about legal problems. Anyway,
yeah.
I don't care about all that. So I just...
We're the people who are using it right now, so it shouldn't be a surprise if I'm not going to sue you for putting cookies when I'm committing code to the same thing. I'm basically suing myself at that point.
That'd be a bad move. But yeah, I don't want to use cookies, and so a cookie, for those unaware, is essentially just a way to store some data in the browser, so next time you go and you visit a website, they can look at that data that was stored and be like, hey, you're Yazeed. That's how it works when you log in. You sign into a website like Facebook. You get a token back, probably. I don't know how their auth works, but you get a thing back in your browser that's kind of a token that says you are you, and it's valid for a certain amount of time. And so that thing is stored in your browser. That's why when you go back to facebook.com, you're still logged in. Our website doesn't do that, and I don't want it to because I don't understand the implications of adding cookies because of the legal stuff. So I'm just avoiding it, and you get your token back when you log in, but we don't store it. So when you refresh the page, you're not logged in anymore. What that means is if you go to the website and you log in, and then you click on the Manage My Games button, and it takes you to another page, you're not logged in anymore because your token doesn't move between those two because it's not stored in your browser. So to avoid dealing with any of that, I'm just going to make all this one page. Sign in, do all your shit here. Love of God, don't exit out the tab. You have to sign in again. There is no remember me button or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially that was kind of the main thing for the UI from the UI perspective there. And it's kind of a new workflow for me. I don't really like UI mocks or planning. It's kind of against I don't like planning things.
I don't like UI mocks or planning. Just that's like too. That's like I don't like blue cheese or vegetables.
It's planning to me. A UI mockup is planning. It's design, and that's always been a thing for me. I'm very. I would rather start writing code than thinking about the problem, which has been a problem in the past. But basically, the UI mocks help me realize what the API needs to do. Kind of realizing, the fact that you can have an asset page. And then these assets can be associated to 0 or many games. And then a game can have many assets. It's a many-to-many relationship. And then how do I model that in what I'm using on the back end and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, the asset service is the other kind of stuff I was working on as a result of the UI mockups and changes that I made there, or the sketches and plans that I made there. So asset service stuff has been going. I have a DynamoDB table that stores games, and another one that stores assets, right? So, but not the actual data, just like the record of an asset. So if you have if you have an image, for example, you can go to landlord.homegames.io and upload it today. You can do this with Postman, whatever. You can give it a file, upload it. It'll give you back an ID. And that ID is basically of this record in this Dynamo table of its knowledge of this thing you gave it. It takes that file and puts it into S3. And then in the Dynamo record, it says, hey, if you want this data, here's where it is. It's in S3. So we're not storing images in DynamoDB. We're storing records of the images, the metadata, who uploaded it, when they uploaded it. What's the type of the data? Is it an image? Is it a video? Is it that whole thing? So that's all in a Dynamo table. And it works, like I said, all that stuff. There's still some stuff I need to flesh out with the model for the game relationship to the assets and what is a game record, what does it contain, what should live in the database, what should live in code, like basically what metadata of a game should be read from the actual code itself, and what's another thing that's maybe a bit more malleable that a developer can change in a database that we don't really care so much if it changes without us knowing, without being managed by us. So there's some stuff to think about there, and I think my next thing is building out a proof of concept for the game catalog stuff I was talking about last week. Basically trying to get something where I can get Homegames core, the repo, and have some script or something look at it and say, oh, here's facts about the repo. Here's this many games by this many authors. Just extract as much data out of it as you can to then try to get that data into a nice, cool UI to showcase the games that we have available. It would also be really nice if I figured out the whole game marketplace, the NPM package thing that we talked about, because that's essentially the full end-to-end process of starting to make a game, making a game, publishing a game, and playing a game without us even knowing. If you can use the tools, publish a package, update your stuff locally, and then run it, you can do all of this, and it's not in Homegames core. It's not, maybe it doesn't need to be, and you can kind of publish outside of our control. But there would need to be a system where we can kind of give it our equivalent of the Nintendo stamp of quality, where we say you made a porn game, that's not good. You made a puzzle game that we really like, and we're going to feature this somehow. And that process should be the process.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be reviewing crazy levels of shit. It should be, here's a product, and we are agreeing that the product is approved by us, not that it can be made.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Um,
100%. I mean, especially because it's like this is open source, so anyone can do whatever with it. But it's like legally we can't do certain things. We can't have certain things in our GitHub repo, which means that you can't have certain things in your GitHub repo.
Well, even if it's not like a legal thing, it just
From
seems
like a moral standpoint.
it's just a heavy process.
Yeah.
Getting your code in my code
It's
for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
No, if you have people making games for this core set of tools, why are they modifying the tools?
Mm-hmm.
Why are they modifying your code? They should be doing their thing. And if you have a platform, your platform should be able to have that thing on top of it without you having to work so hard to get it on there.
Yeah.
And then, there's just a lot of stuff to think about there. So I have to build out a proof of concept for that. But next week is my bachelor party, and then the week after I'm getting married. So I don't know how much I'm gonna get done on that. Holy shit! Weddings in 13 days.
This man's getting married. The old ball and chain.
I'm very excited. But yeah, no, I just need to build that whole thing out. But it's going. Like I said, you can go to landlord.homegames.io right now, upload a file, this is confusing, but it'll give you an ID, and then that ID of the file can be retrieved at assets.homegames.io/that ID. You get an image, you get whatever.
Very nice.
And that's just an S3 bucket. We don't handle that retrieval at all. We don't do any of it. It's just fetching right from S3, and that's just from the record in the Dynamo table saying here's where the file is. The weirdness is that it's a node HTTP server, right, receiving this file. So the way that the person's essentially uploading their 50 megabyte or smaller image to our web server. That web server then needs to essentially just relay that to S3. It's a proxy basically. But the problem comes in with latency. You're essentially moving the file twice. If I give my 50 megabytes to server has the 50 megabytes, but it's not retrievable yet. So this server needs to copy the 50 megabytes to S3. But I've already given you the requester. I've uploaded my file. I don't give a fuck what you're doing after that. Just, my request is done. You got it. I don't care. Mm-hmm. So that's when you get the ID back. Someone uploads to landlord. It says, cool, I've made a record for your thing. Haven't uploaded it yet, but here's the ID for it, so you can ask me for it later. You very optimistically uploads that shit, and it hopes that by the time that you check for that ID, it's there. Right? And I think the fact that we're limiting to 50 megabytes is kind of an okay thing. I mean, latency shouldn't be that much of a problem. Disk size, it's a good limit, I think. So yeah. Anyway, there's just like a little bit of stuff I can fix up there. I think one potential improvement. This is kind of like what I meant with iterating stuff. One potential improvement is instead of waiting for the entire file to be transferred, like I'm doing right now on the Node server. Once I have your full file, I'll start uploading. Mm-hmm. Instead of that. Dog's drinking water in the back. Hopefully people enjoy the smooth sounds of Sapphire. But once I have any part of that file, instead of storing it on disk and then copying, basically I'll just take parts as fast as you can give them to me, and I'll send them right out to S3. Mm-hmm. So before I have the full file, I'm already putting file chunking. Mm-hmm. So that's one potential. But the fact again that it's 50 megabytes, it shouldn't be that much of a problem. I think this kind of double thing that we're doing right now. But again, could be fixed.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that'll speed things up, but also make things more difficult. Sapphire is like all up in our business.
That's okay.
Suddenly. Oh, because it's getting close to when she's supposed to be awake, so she's awake now.
I haven't seen Sapphire in 4 months, so she clearly missed me.
That's right. I mean, she's a real sweetheart. What was I going to say? Yeah, I think those improvements would be nice. But like you said, iterative approach.
Yeah, iterative. And it's much faster than the nothing we had last week. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, the iterative thing, you have to be able to say, this is it. I'm going to do something else. Because the amount of things, the breadth of tasks that we have for this whole thing is fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. You can't laser focus on one because you have to keep the whole thing in mind, which is just super hard.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about it for me for home game stuff. Kind of just moving forward there. Next week we might have some more interesting things to say as a result of that proof of concept I'm building, because that's kind of the biggest unknown to me. How much can we get from reading code in the GitHub API? And what do we do?
Yeah. One more thing before we move on is I I'm to tease this a little bit because I don't have the full thing fleshed out yet.
Okay.
But I was talking to my brother and JC, and they were like, "Oh, it'd be really cool to play like multiplayer Zoo Tycoon." And I was like, "That would be pretty cool." And I looked, and like that hasn't happened. Like even Planet Zoo doesn't have multiplayer in it. And I was like, maybe I could make like a really simple version of that for Homegames.
That's what I saw with the clicker though, and I spent a month and didn't get anything done. That's kind of like it's super hard to build a game and build the tools and then get everything working when it's like just you and another person.
Yeah, I mean, I think having vision would help.
Yeah.
Right, because coming from this, we'll have like a really simple blocked vision, right? Like square vision, which is how like top down. So I mean,
segmented 2D thing, basically.
Yeah, so hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
But I don't know for sure if it will or not. And also, I mean, that's a lot of work. I mean, just in my head, when you're in school and they're like, let's build a simple animal class. Like, this one makes a barking noise. This one quacks. Like, oh, cool. Yeah, but do that for, like, the actual game. And I don't know how I would even start. I mean, I know how I would start. I don't know how long it would take me. Because in theory, I'm supposed to finish it in 3 months. But I don't think I can finish that in 3 months. I maybe have, like... I can maybe have like a square that's named Lion that moves around in 3 months.
I'd play that. Sounds pretty fucking cool.
Maybe eats food or something.
Whoa, that's a stretch goal.
Yeah, and then I need to like pay somebody to make the sprites for all the animals because I don't know how to do sprite work and I'm not gonna learn. So
that's and then I tried to learn how to. I'm looking at ways online to improve my design and drawing abilities because that's another thing we have to learn. It's like, oh, how do we make things look okay? Yeah. I can make a system that like does this math or whatever, but you know, this looks like shit.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah. So I think because right now basically I have the ideas for three of the 4 games I'm supposed to make this year. So I'm trying to come up with like a 4th idea. So
yeah.
That game that might be like a real big pie of a game to try to figure out how to do.
Yeah, cool. Well, that should be that. Since we're teasing things, I started working on a thing 2 months ago, and I never mentioned it on here. I'm still working on that. It's the biggest tease you can get. I recorded voice for this thing. Yeah, it's a game. It's essentially, it's going to be a game where I am able to, based on the way I'm thinking of the game design right now, I will be able to iterate on the system, and instead of getting a system feature working and then building a test game with that one feature being the test game, it's essentially the game that can have all of these features in it in a way that's not stupid. Basically a way for me to test every core functionality of the thing in a game instead of a test.
Like that PS5 demo game?
The controller thing?
Yeah.
Obviously not on the level of quality or anything like that. But yeah, it's essentially just a collection of small micro game things that you can play. And when I have a new idea for like microphone access or this other feature, you can incorporate it into this thing and add on a new micro thing instead of basically here's a screen where you can click on the boxes and they change colors. It's not a game, yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, nice. Basically that's it. I'll work on that. Well, I haven't worked on it recently, but it's a thing in my head. Hey. And hopefully at the end of the year I'll have a thing.
Very nice. Yeah, I think if I can get a team of people interested in making a Zoo Tycoon light experience in Homegames, maybe then I could have it done in 3 months. But then I have to take on like a creative head type or like a director position because, yeah, I don't know. It's too complicated for me.
You're like making your own position in a group of your friends. Yeah. That's what my whole thing was like. What do we call ourselves on the website? It was just 2 of us.
Yeah, because if there's like 4 people making games, like making this game together, we can't all just be pulling in different directions. Someone has to be like, you're in charge of making the lion roar. You're in charge of making the lion eat. Yeah. You're in charge of making sure we can put cages down. You're in charge of different kinds of cages or something. I don't know. Sprite work.
Yeah.
And then my job would be to do something else. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Making games is hard, and I've never been good at it. So.
It's fun though. I think the fact that we keep seeing gaps is the whole fun. Is the fact that this is hard and we're just figuring it out.
Yeah, agreed.
It's kind of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. You ready to move on to Song of the Week?
Song of the Week. Yazeed, your Song of the Week was... The band's name is Hey Ocean, right?
Yeah.
Hey Ocean and Ashley Ball. The song's called Islands.
Mm-hmm.
This song feels like you're on an island. It's kind of like a soft, wavy type vibe, you know? It's relaxing, I suppose. The first half sounded a bit like a Hyundai commercial, kind of like soft, you know, whatever. Which is the whole point. That's like the vibe of a car commercial, kind of going along the coast, and they show you the APR. Whole kind of thing.
This could be you for $1 million.
Yeah, lease the new Range Rover for $749 a month. Yeah. Like, who the fuck is leasing for $749 a month? Anyway, no, this is not expensive Range Rover vibes. This is just kind of chill, nice, and the second half gets a little different. There's like a violin or something that comes in. It's a little different. But it's nice. It's relaxing. It's not. It's not what I listen to, but it's nice.
Yeah, this is definitely something I listen to when I'm doing whatever. I'm be like writing code, and be taking a nap. All the same music.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I like this song. It reminds me. It reminds me of like some vacations I've taken and some stuff like that. So
yeah. And looking at the track list on the album, I know you don't listen to albums or whatever, but it seems like there was some cohesion. There was, I believe the album thing is like island related as well, and then all the songs kind of talk about water and shit. You know, it's like there's a vibe. There's a song called "Forgive," like you're forgiven, but then the four is in parentheses, and then the song after that is "Give." You know, there's a thing there. It's forgive and then give.
Oh, that's pretty sick. Maybe I'll listen to this whole album for once. Maybe I'll bite the bullet. I was telling Joseph because he got me
Oh Wonder.
He got me 2 albums from Oh Wonder. One of them, their first album, their self-titled album is probably the only it's probably the only album I've ever listened front to back and liked every song for. So
it's funny when you talk about listening to albums and stuff, because I never got it. Like I never get concept albums. Like people will talk about, oh, you know, Yellow Submarine's a concept album, and there's a whole fucking animated movie with it. There's a Childish Gambino album that's supposedly a concept album. Twisted Dark Fantasy by Kanye is a concept album. And listening to albums when it's like, oh man, the end of this song, he says, you know, all of the lights, and then the beginning of the next one, it's I knocked the lights out. Ooh, it's like there's cohesion there, but I don't pick up on that. So it's funny that I listen to albums, but I don't understand them. I just listen to them and try to get them.
Yeah, I the other thing too is I listened to all of the songs from that album, but not front to back first. And I was like, I like this song, and then I later found out that I had listened to the whole album. So then I listened to it front to back. And I wasn't like, this is an amazing experience. I was like, I just like all these songs. So it's just basically like if I have my Spotify playlist through fate was like playing them all back to it's like exact same vibes for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the song quite a bit.
Nice.
And I will listen to more of it. Your song, I'm trying to read it, is Rio de Young OG song Molly.
Yeah, Rio de Young OG Molly. What'd you think of it? So Rio the Young OG is a rapper from Michigan. I believe it's from Flint, Michigan. It's this style that's been taking off recently, where I talked about it a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week. You rap, and the way that your brain thinks that you should rap, don't rap like that. And it's like, end it here, and then like say something really, really fast and fill all the syllables in this last bar. Like that kind of weird rapping.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know the word for it, but it's stagnant. Like it slows up and speeds down, or
it has a lot of movement in each like line almost.
Yeah, the flow is weird, and it's unorthodox, and it hits your ears weird when you first hear it. But essentially,
she's just straight up using you as a footrest at this point.
She's on the J's right now, but it's okay because she's a family dog. Anyway, Really Young OG is just basically shit talking over a beat for 2.5 minutes, and it's fucking hilarious.
Who is he shit talking?
Anybody, dude. That's what rappers is like. I fucked your bitch. Who? All of them. Every one of them.
All of yours. Now listen, I can say that the mechanics of this song are fine. Like I can follow, I can understand. Some of the lines in this song, though, homie, are just like I want to say absurd, but
like shock
also yeah, a little bit. He has a line in there, and I don't want to pull out my phone and read it verbatim. But basically, he's saying like he pulled out a Glock on his son. And then demanded that the son read the alphabet. Now, that's not healthy for children, probably.
Yeah.
But the song doesn't go up from there. The song stays at about that level of like... The content of that song, I think, is what trips me up the most. More than any other part of it. I can get over weird... Because I'm not that deep into rap, so all of it I somewhat struggle with like the cadence that you're supposed to do it with. But yeah, this song is. When you told me I needed to prepare myself, I didn't think that it was going to be like that. I needed to prepare myself in that way.
Yeah.
But damn.
It reminds me of I don't know if you ever did this like in middle school or whatever, but where you're like fake freestyling with your friends. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, oh man, ate some bad food and it made me sick. And then your friend's just like, I just went to the mall and I ate a dick. You know, and it's just like, you kind of just like do that. Yeah. And it's stupid. But it's like, this dude is doing that by himself and then just freestyling the funniest shit. And it's absurd and whatever. And like one of the bars is like, I probably got corona. I just pissed and I didn't wash my hands. Like, it's just stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's hilarious. It's probably an acquired taste for sure. I just think it's super funny.
Listen, it is super funny. I made like a stank face when he said the child line, but he has another line. Like basically, he told us that he threatened his kid. He told us that he threatened or actually murdered some lady named Ashley, and then like you really just that song is just bananas.
There's the one line I gotta. Caught the ops in their mama car. That bitch got riddled up. If dogs survive this face shot, blow the hospital up.
Yeah, then the pillow line that comes afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Stuck the AR in his room.
And window and shot the pillows up. And then the next, damn, and he was in the bed. Like it's
just to make it more clear. Like, I'm sorry. I thought it was like John Wick where William Dafoe shoots the pillow to wake John up. No, he's like, nah, he was in the bed when I shot up the pillow. I mean, he's dead now. Yeah, I don't know, man. This song is definitely not my jam.
Yeah,
the lyrics are hilarious and grim and dark and paint a somewhat sad picture from this man's life. He even says somewhere like, "Yeah, it's kind of messed up."
It's like I'm addicted to pills. It's like really weird. It's just stream of consciousness.
Yeah. Did he sit down and was just like, I don't know, let me just talk about my life experiences and like what's going on with me right now?
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of artists do that, but then they're like, let me clean this up a little bit. And he was like, nah, this is fine.
If you want to watch like a truly fascinating process of how some rappers make songs, there's a Young Thug Instagram live he did where his whole process is he'll just play a beat and then come up with sounds. Like he'll mumble along to the beat. Like he'll make the flow and the sounds and like the cadence and all that first. And then he'll make it words. Like he'll just keep repeating it until the sounds become words. It's crazy. And he made a song called Rich Fella Live. And it's just it's like 30 minutes and he starts and he's just mumbling just and then at the end it's a song and it's just him recording on Instagram Live from start to finish everything he did. And so it's like I think a lot of rappers today just do that. Just go in, stream of consciousness, and we'll fill in the parts that need to be filled in. And sometimes you won't. There's a few Young Thug songs I know of that are like leaks, but he left in the parts where he didn't say words. It's pretty funny to hear it. It's like it's fascinating to see the process.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, I don't think I could ever sit down and listen to this song, but
an
interesting song. Hopefully, rap. I don't want to be like the boomer on rap because I'm not even remotely an authority. I hope that more rappers stay away from this and do something else. If more rappers are like Benny the Butcher, I think I'd be a happier rap listener is all I'm saying.
I could see it. I guess I was listening to the No Jumper podcast recently, and they're actually who I learned about this dude from. They're talking about Flint rappers and stuff. But they were talking about how Detroit and Michigan in general have this kind of history of like shock rap. I mean, Eminem is from there, and kind of when he was new, he was pretty abrasive sound and words and stuff. Talking about killing his wife and shit.
Yeah, that's another one where like I can listen to some Eminem songs because they're just like silly and goofy, but any of his like deeper meaning songs I can't because they're just too much.
Yeah,
there's too much going on there.
Yeah, basically everything before Encore, and there's some stuff in there you probably are considering violent or whatever in that, but that was just good stuff. After that is like whatever. Anyway, Eminem is from Detroit, and then there's another rapper from a long time ago named Bizarre. They were a part of a group called D12, so like Devil's Dozen or something. It was 6 dudes from Detroit, and they were trying to get the Dirty Dozen or whatever, 12 rappers from Michigan who were really, really good, and they couldn't get 12 people, so they had only 6, and then they all came up with 2 personas each or whatever, and they all rap. It's a whole group. It's whatever. Bizarre, his whole thing is just saying the craziest, like, shocking, nasty shit. They talk about incest and like all that shit, right? And they were just talking about how it's weird that Michigan seems to be the core of this. Like, it's all coming from this one part of the country. Yeah, I don't know. Really young OG. I've been playing this song over and over again. I played her for Zenobia. She had the same reaction as you, pretty much. I fucking love this song. It's so funny. It's so funny to me. Blow the hospital up. Like the way he just says it. Like the flow is blow the hospital up. I don't know. It's fucking hilarious.
I get it. This mechanics, like I said, the mechanics of the song I think work, right? Like I think it all works. I couldn't listen to this.
Yeah, that's fine.
I couldn't. I listen to Islands, not this.
That's a good breadth of musical content today. We got Islands, and then we got
yeah. So if I don't know if it's gonna make it into the final cut, but at the very start of this, Joseph was like, "Yeah, we listened to the same song basically this podcast, like for the song of the week." That was a lie, obviously. If you couldn't tell at this point.
Damn, and he was in the bed. I got nothing else. That's all my last suit.
You gonna take us out then?
Oh yeah, I forgot I do that. Yeah, thank you everybody for listening. As always, our music was done by our friend Tynan. He is Nytan on Bandcamp. That is Nytan, Nytan. Our website is homegames.io. We're working on it. Don't worry about it. Homegames.io is not very good right now, but it'll be something cool in the future. At Homegames.io on Twitter, if you want to send us questions or comments or feedback on Yazeed's hot e-gaming, whatever the fuck you call it, takes. E-gaming? I'm a boomer for sure.
E-gaming? E-league is a thing. I think you should accept the term. It's like esports, but I mean, that's like a lame name anyway, so I don't care.
E-gaming. That's the new vibe. And our email address for the podcast is podcast@homegames.io if you want to send us questions or anything there. That's going to do it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.